of 50 years, Stephanie, and his younger brother and business partner, Eddie, comprise the Trump Group. Known as the Other Trumps, they have amassed a truly impressive empire consisting of luxury real estate developments and hotels in Florida and California and technology startups in Tel Aviv. The Trump Group's first Florida real estate development was Williams Island back in the early 1980s, which seemed to be an improbable dream of turning 84 mosquito-infested acres into a wildly successful community known for its sophistication and elegance. The Trump brothers' first brand ambassador for Williams Island was none other than Sophia Loren. And Jules and Eddie also convinced retired Australian tennis legend Roy Emerson to run the club's tennis program. Other stars and Grand Slam champions like Bjorn Borg and Chris Everett soon followed. I first met Jules when I started representing the mansions at Acqualina, which was billed as the world's finest residences. With his latest luxury project, Estates at Acqualina, nearing completion, I recently toured that project's $60 million amenity palace known as the Circus Maximus. The 4-story, 45,000 square foot building includes a bowling alley, Formula One race car simulator, golf simulator, surfing pool, movie theater, indoor ice skating rink, 13,000 square foot fitness center with, I have to say, an impressive boxing ring, 3 outdoor gyms, a live Wall Street trading room, soccer, basketball, and bocce courts, a 2-story private nightclub, and an award-winning Greek restaurant called Avra, which I'm going to check out at some point. Jules and his family are the epitome of the American success story, and I'm delighted to have him as our guest today. So Jules, welcome to Take It to the Board.
Well, Donna, thanks very much for having me, and it's a pleasure to be speaking to you.
So you grew up in Johannesburg, South Africa, and you emigrated to America when you were 29. Can you start out, Jules, by telling us what was your life like in South Africa?
Actually, we moved from Johannesburg to Pretoria when I was very young, and growing up there, look, if you were white and middle class, which we were, growing up there was pretty wonderful, pretty luxurious and privileged. And I had a wonderful family. I was blessed with wonderful parents and a wonderful brother. He and I have been in business together since we were kids and we first started trading, which was very young. It was an absolutely wonderful childhood. We moved from Pretoria very briefly to Johannesburg and then immigrated virtually immediately to the United States. Ultimately, what motivated us to leave was I was married, we had our first child, and our feeling was we just didn't want to bring a child up in, the apartheid regime. It was not something we could condone, so we wanted to get out of there as quickly as possible. So my brother first started, went to Europe, did very well in real estate, and then we were able to buy our first business in the United States.
So you first moved, Jules, to New York City.
Right, and that's where we bought our first business. We were able to buy a very, very distressed business. It was on the verge of bankruptcy in the retail business. We'd been brought up in the retail business. Our parents had a retail store, and, that's where we were brought up. And, that's where we learned the principles of customer service. Our philosophy is, treating customers right and treating the people who work with you right. And we have a formula for success. If you've had some success, that I must say has been our secret.
That business, that retail business, Jules, was the clothing business, correct?
Yes, he was in the clothing business. Retail clothing store.
Right. Any parallels between that and real estate development?
I think, Donna, the reason we jumped into the condominium business was when we looked at the condominium scene in South Florida. We felt that if we could build decent buildings and provide extraordinary customer service, that would give us a tremendous edge. So our focus has always been on extraordinary customer service and really understanding what our customers would want. And, being able to, through conversations with them, be able to foretell what the future holds, what amenities would be appealing to them, food service, and so on.
So I'm going to take you back. So you and Stephanie have young children. You're in New York City. You come down to South Florida. You like the weather. And you decide, now this is back in the early 1980s, you see a large parcel of land, which today is known as Williams Island. That was your first real estate development back in the early 1980s. You obviously saw something that no one else had seen up until that point. Did you consider that deal to be a huge gamble, a huge personal gamble for your family?
Look, any business venture is a gamble. Was this a bigger gamble than most? Yes, it was. It was an 80-acre island and needed every service, every conceivable service. It was in a nondescript area. So, doing it there was a challenge. And we had to come up with innovative ways of bringing people to Williams Island. And, that's when we hitched on the idea of building this Mediterranean village and creating this theme of the Florida Riviera, which, became our theme. We made a deal with Sophia Loren, and which was wonderful for us. She was a wonderful lady. She and her husband, Carlo Ponti, spent a lot of time with us on Williams Island. They were really terrific for us. And then, one of the big outstanding things that really put us on the map was Robin Leach in Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous at that time, offered to do a show with Sophia on Williams Island. He kept showing that show over and over and over again. And then he did two more. He did one with my wife Stephanie, and Sophia went to Europe to buy antiques for our clubs. That was a smash hit. And then he did another one on Williams Island. So, look, she was a superstar then. She's, in my opinion, a superstar now. And people said to me at the time, what are you doing, a woman of 50 years old? We saw something wonderful in her. And, I think even to this day, she'd be a great brand ambassador for any company.
It took you a while, though, to convince the surrounding property owners to sell, correct?
No, Williams Island, still what it was then, 80 acres, including the water. Lots and lots of amenities. We were the first with a really super club, and we really made tennis a big deal, as you mentioned. Roy Emerson, who was wonderful for us, was our teaching pro, and you had the world champion. So we had top pros, Yvonne Lendl, Jimmy Connors, people like that coming to practice there. It was wonderful.
Do you feel like Fisher Island copied you with the Mediterranean concept and the luxury lifestyle? I'm trying to remember when Fisher Island was developed, but it was after you developed Williams Island, correct?
No, it was more or less the same time. And there were big competition. People were not nuts about the ferry boat.
I've been on that ferry boat. I've had clients on Fisher Island. I've been on that ferry boat. It's hard to make a meeting on time if you're stuck on the ferry.
And that was certainly an advantage that we had. But it's gone on to be very successful.
What do you think is most important to purchasers of luxury real estate? Is it the location, the design, the amenities, the service, or is everything equally important to these purchasers?
I think you have to do everything well. We've chosen to create fantastic living spaces. We don't go for these ultra gorgeous buildings that are unlivable. It's not for us. The other thing is that we make sure that the amenities are really outstanding. I think you mentioned at the start of this talk that you'd visited the estates at Acqualina. And I truly think we have nobody in the world, not just in South Florida, but nobody in the world has amenities like we've provided here for a condominium development. It's just never happened. Over and over again, we just over-provide. So we over-provided in terms of living spaces, in terms of the finishes, in terms of the amenities, and the service that we provide.
Let me ask you this. What inspires you when it comes to design? I imagine you and your family travel all over the world. What inspires you when you're thinking about your next development or when you were thinking about estates and what it should look like?
Initially, traveling the Mediterranean really helped, particularly seeing the beach experience. We believe South Florida is all about the beach and the ocean and so on, and people appreciate that so tremendously. And traveling Europe, the Mediterranean, you get a sense of how people want to live and how they want to enjoy the beach, enjoy the outdoors. And we've tried to replicate that. Nobody has done what we did with the lawn. Nobody's prepared to dedicate that kind of space to a lawn. And, we put couches on the lawn and people go nuts for that. So that was a very big inspiration. Using Lagerfeld was a big inspiration. Just working with the guy was amazing. What he did in terms of the lobbies, changed the look of these buildings considerably. Have you seen the lobbies?
I have seen the lobbies, and I was amazed at how the different feeling between mansions lobby and the estates lobby. I don't know if you know this about me. I'm a big fashion fan, okay? And I have to ask you, what was it like working with the late Karl Lagerfeld?
It was truly an amazing experience. Look, I think he was over 80, and I think he'd been ill. But in spite of that, tremendously hard work. He would fly in from Rome. We would meet always in Paris. He had this wonderful office, which was an old Rothschild, books by the million. He would come in at perhaps 4:00, having flown in from Rome, and we would meet late into the evening, very much into the detail. He was super into detail. He brought one day a cup to a meeting, and he said, "You see this color? This is exactly the color that you got to do. We've got this mosaic rug on the floor." He was so insistent on every color that was chosen for this mosaic rug, and how it had to look tattered and so on. So he was very much into the detail. And then, the centerpiece is this great, his series of photographs of the fountains in Rome, which suits us down to the ground because we're very much into fountains. We've done a really good job of fountains. And the Italian theme is, what we picked up on for all of these buildings, the Acqualina, the mansions, and the estates. We have on the lower floors, we have this very Italianate sort of theme. The upper floors and the estates is ultra-modern.
Did he get to see the final installation?
No, he passed away.
Did you meet the famous cat? I think the cat's Choo-Choo, or... I think that cat was a big beneficiary under his estate, actually.
It's a crazy story with the cat. He would have a phone in the office. The phone would never ring. The only calls that he would take would be from the cat nannies. And the deal that we had with him was that he was going to come over and do a grand opening party for us, which obviously didn't materialize. But the deal was this: that we would charter a Global Express, bring him over. Only he, the cat, and the 2 cat nannies could be on that plane. All of his executives would have to travel separately. That was just a crazy situation.
We're talking about incredible designs, but I imagine over the years, how has the local design review board changed some of your initial designs? Has that happened to you where you go, you've got one thing in mind, and then you get in front of the local design review board and they say, nah, you got to change this?
Not really. It hasn't been significant for us. Look, what happened was when we started with Acqualina, Dave Sampson was the new mayor of the new town, Sunny Isles. It had just been founded and so on. We got friendly with Dave and told him what we wanted to do in terms of, bringing a really first-class building, which he was super thrilled about. I mean, for him, this was the biggest thing, that he could get such a quality building. And unfortunately, he didn't live to see the building completed. But ever since then, the city have been great supporters of ours. Look, we've done wonders for the city, and, we've always honored what we promised. So, with good reason. I mean, they've been good to us, but we've been good for the city.
So I'm sitting in Fort Lauderdale. You are sitting, I presume, in Sunny Isles right now?
Yes, in Sunny Isles.
When I look around, Jules, and I'm driving around, I see the same type of boxy kind of mid-rise building with ground floor retail space, and they look startlingly similar. I mean, I could be in Nashville and see the same type of building. I could be in Austin and see the same type of building. Is design taking a back seat, do you believe, to necessity and affordability?
In the high end, it is not. I think, you do see lots of innovative design. And, for our next project, we've been talking to some great designers in New York, and I just see, wonderful ideas coming out. But I don't think design is deteriorating at the high end.
I'm not going to name the city, but I recently looked at a downtown project where they were hoping to increase pedestrian traffic. And I will tell you that the housing looked like Soviet housing I saw when I was in Russia years ago. It was rather shocking. And I'm saying, who is buying in this type of development? Because it really did look very stark. There's brutalism, the brutalist design, but it wasn't as sophisticated as brutalist design. It really looked like the Soviet housing. At Acqualina, you don't have a mixed-use component. That's deliberate?
No. Look, our properties, they're consumed with amenities and so on. And, to the extent there is space, I'd rather dedicate it to our customer enjoyment. And, we like bringing outsiders to our restaurants. It's designed for that. The mansions, for instance, is designed to be totally private. And if people want that sort of a lifestyle, they live in the mansions. On the other hand, the hotel has two great restaurants, and the Estates of Acqualina has a great restaurant.
Well, I've been to Il Molino. Love Il Molino.
And, I put Il Molino's food up against any restaurant in the world. They do a super job.
Well, you know my name. It's Donna DiMaggio, so.
Were you brought up with Italian food?
That's a funny story. So my mother's not Italian. At this point, you would think she is, but she's German and Irish and English. But she had to take a cooking test with my grandma before my dad decided to go forward with the marriage. But she's an incredible Italian cook. I love to cook. I cook a lot of Italian, but yeah, we do. But you and Stephanie still live in the mansions. Tell me about the pros and cons of continuing to live in a community you developed. Do people still stop you in the elevator and say, I have an issue with this or that?
Yes, occasionally. I must say, though, we get far more compliments than complaints. I find it flattering, quite honestly. It's really overwhelmingly most of the people have something super nice to say.
Well, I think it's a testament to what you built, considering you can live anywhere, that you choose to live in the community you developed.
Our philosophy is if there's going to be a problem, we want to find out about it first. And by living it yourself, you experience. So, ultimately problems emerge. So you want to deal with them.
Well, I couldn't have you on this podcast, Jules, without mentioning that you're a developer. Your last name is Trump. And there's some other guy out there named Trump who also develops real estate. You managed to successfully navigate a little legal tussle with Donald years ago. But I have to imagine you run into him, particularly because now they all moved down here, right?
We run into him a lot more at the tennis. He has a box next to our box, one away from our box. So, we would run into him at the tennis. And our relationship now is okay. It's fine. In fact, he actually said some nice things about us to the New York Times and they were asked to comment about the case.
But you don't put your names on your building.
Look, we're super low profile people. That's why we had spokespeople like Sophia and so on. I don't know. Lately, I recognize the need to do it, so we do it.
So the Estates at Acqualina's South Tower is now complete. It's an impressive 49-story building with 154 units. It's my understanding that the North Tower is going to be 52 stories and contain 94 units, but that's not yet completed, correct?
Correct.
But it's completely sold out, right?
Oh, yes. We were sold out in the middle of 2021.
Listen, you've been a developer. You and Eddie have been the developers for decades. What emerging development trends are you noticing? Is anyone going smaller or simpler in the luxury real estate space, Jules?
Yeah, I think we were fortunate in our design of these buildings, particularly in the second building. We built a lot of 4 and 5 bedroom units because of what happened with COVID. So you had two things happen. You had the people moving down full-time, therefore needing offices and working from here and so on. So the extra rooms were valuable. And the other is more and more families. We're very much a family appeal kind of development. And, if we were on South Beach, we'd be something else. But, we've chosen to be focused on the beach, focused on families and so on. So that works out well. So we did multiple mini rooms. And so that was a big trend that we picked up on. And, maybe it was luck, whatever, or foresight. But, once COVID hit, it was a real no-brainer.
So, Jules, I had Florida Representative Dan Daly on the show a while back, and he and I were discussing the growing lack of affordable housing in Florida and how it's going to have a dramatic impact on our economy. Because we need service people in Florida, and these people need to have places to live. So you mentioned earlier in the episode about Karl Lagerfeld. And just as fashion designers often produce both couture lines and more affordable ready-to-wear lines, do you ever see your group developing affordable housing in Florida?
I certainly don't immediately. Our feeling is we want to give back to the community, and we certainly do. We have this I Have a Dream program where we take inner city kids. And, we believe very much in education as the way of getting out of poverty. Just philosophically, that's our thing. So we spend a lot of time, a lot of effort. My wife is super involved in it. And so that's our way of giving back. Other people give back perhaps by doing affordable housing.
How do you think the Champlain Towers tragedy has impacted developers who build on Florida's coastline?
Well, I think certainly the building departments have become a lot more vigilant, a lot more careful, and in the permitting process. And obviously, they've gone in depth inspecting buildings and condemning where necessary, or advising them that they have to do significant repairs. So I think Florida has done a good job of that. And I think some buildings will come down as a result.
That's a great segue, because I have a lot of older coastal buildings that are now considering terminating the condominium form of ownership. They're in great locations, Jules, but they've got people on fixed incomes who are now saying, you know what, we cannot afford to fully fund the reserves, and they're looking at what it's really going to cost to perform regular, consistent maintenance and repair projects. Is your group entertaining any of these terminations? I know there's a lot of developers out there right now that are trying to look at these older coastal buildings and perhaps buy them out, tear them down, and put something new up.
Yeah, we have from time to time. And basically the two buildings that we bought on either side of Acqualina were both in those conditions. The one had been condemned by the city, and the other one, we'd started accumulating units and been condemned. And the other one on the north side was a timeshare, 3,500 shareholders. So, you can imagine it must have been, it was fun. But we got them all in. We didn't have to force the sale in the end.
Well, I'm sure there's going to be more looking to do that. So you have 3 children. You have 13 grandchildren. You and Stephanie and Eddie, you've built a real estate empire. You show no signs of slowing down. So what's next for you in the Trump group?
Well, we're doing a lot of stuff in California. We accumulate quite a lot of land in the warehouse, in the very prime warehouse area. We'll be developing that. And we're looking to do other stuff in Florida.
Maybe you'll come back in a future episode and tell us what's new.
Love to do so. And perhaps we'll meet up at Avra.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Jules.
Donna, thank you. It's been a pleasure being with you. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. Don't forget to follow and rate us on your favorite podcast platform, or visit takeittotheboard.com for more ways to connect.